Hello and welcome to the Extra Mile. I'm Linda Boudreau. Our guest today is SHIMEKA CRETIEN-BASS. She is the Health Initiatives Representative with the American Cancer Society. And we're going to find out about some of the initiatives and things that they have going on this year. So SHIMEKA, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's good to have you come and tell us about what's going on with the American Cancer Society in Acadiana.
Yes, that's right.
Because we're going to focus on our home turf. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about the American Cancer Society itself and how it works.
Okay, well, the American Cancer Society has been around for quite a while. We actually are a national brand, but we do have local facilities all throughout the states. We originally here are comprised of the Mid-South Division, of which is comprised of 6 states, including Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, of course, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, if I haven't said that one already. And also what we do is, we really go out there providing the prevention message with early detection, trying to make sure that, we can educate any and everybody that we can, and also being there for them if they would ever get cancer. Our main mission is to improve the quality of life for all cancer patients here in Acadiana.
Okay, so that is the mission. How do you do that?
Well, there's several ways that we do that. We try to be there for them every step of the way. We use what we call the cancer continuum, which basically ranges from before, when we are out there spreading the prevention message, to if they've ever been diagnosed, giving them methods of, how to choose surgical options or what's going to be best for them, the cancer care. Information is a really big thing for us. We want everybody to be well educated, so we always provide and really good research as far as the information that we're putting out there, and the patients really get a lot out of that information, which gives them a lot of good decision-making tools.
Because you need that, right? I mean, knowledge is truly power, and so when you're making those critical decisions, I guess you all have the most current information too, I'm assuming.
Yes, we would hope to have the most current information. We usually do assessments every couple of years, to make sure that what we're putting out there is always the most current and up-to-date information for our patients. We want the best for them.
So is there any, I guess, periodically there'll be certain cancers that we seem to target, or that we seem to promote or publicize more. So what are we looking at these days?
Well, the top 4 have been probably that way for a little while. But right now, the highest occurrences that we're seeing are, your lung, your prostate, your breast, and your colon cancers are the top 4 that we're seeing more and more, and on a higher level than others.
And what about Acadiana? Are we just kind of in there with the national average, or do we get any kudos here?
Well, we seem to be ranking right up there, maybe even a little higher at times on certain things. Colon cancer here in the area is probably one of those ones that's the most preventable, but yet and still, without the prevention methodologies, we're seeming to rank pretty high up there. So we're hoping to educate Louisiana a little better and make sure that everybody goes and gets their colorectal exam, and so we can jump back down, below that average.
So we're above the national average now?
Yes, we're one of the highest for colon cancer.
Are there things we can do to prevent, not just early detection, which, is key to treatment, but so you don't even ever get it?
Yeah, I mean, well, with most things, diet and exercise is very important. On our website, actually, at cancer.org, there's tons of information on prevention methods, but, it's just one of those things to where we have to make sure we're educating ourselves to be able to learn that information, so that hopefully one day we can, never have to get that diagnosis. It is preventable.
And we have to take that information seriously. We have to get it, and
Yes.
we have to take it seriously and
Yes.
and do it. And I guess that's where we're not always so successful, huh? We don't always do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and it's a personal choice, and sometimes we wait a little bit too close to the meter, but it's always good to just try to do a little bit at a time, making sure that we are following those rules of thumb when it comes to diet and exercise.
Okay, so the American Cancer Society then is not specifically, this is not specifically an Acadiana group. Really, you follow the national guidelines, and the things that we're implementing here are those same programs and models that are being implemented nationally. Am I right about that?
Yes, that is very correct. What we usually do is that we take assessments on all of our different areas. As a national brand, we try to look at the different things that is going on all throughout the world, so that we make sure that whenever we're implementing programs in these different areas, those things have been tested in a sense to make sure that they're going to have the best possible outcome for the patients that we're serving.
And that's why it's so important and
Yes.
so key.
Correct.
So does the American Cancer Society then determine maybe a specific or certain program for one area that they wouldn't recommend for another area based on lifestyle and incidence of cancer and that kind of thing?
Yes, we actually do. A lot of our programs are, the brand. We do have them pretty much everywhere, but there are some that are specific to the area. At some point, we're going to have pretty much all of our programs everywhere. But as an example of one of those programs that we have, Road to Recovery, which is our new transportation program,
Okay.
that is going to assist cancer patients from getting from home to their medical appointments and treatments and back home again. And one of the reasons why that one is so important and why it's now here is because we were doing assessments and found that, there were a lot of patients that were not completing treatment because of their inability to get to and from those special treatments that they need.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mean so people really can die
Yes.
from not having access? Is that?
Well, it's primarily based on them and their treatment diagnoses and the different types of diagnoses that they have, but you can see more of an increased risk for that, if they're not going. We all know that if you can't get to that life-saving treatment, then your life expectancy is going to decrease.
Yeah. So transportation alone, I mean, that it's not money, it's not availability, it's access.
It's access. One of the major things that we support throughout our organization with all of our programs is access to care. So this is why this program is so important for us to be having here in Acadiana, because we were seeing that was starting to become more of a pattern, that, maybe it wasn't that they didn't have a vehicle, but maybe they were just too ill after getting those treatments. So our volunteers here in this area have been very great in making sure that those patients can get to treatment.
So what does Road to Recovery involve? What do you have to do?
Well, basically, if someone's interested in becoming a volunteer, all they would need to do is attend about a 2-hour training that's usually hosted by me. They usually get that privilege of having me give them a lecture, per se, but also that they have a current and valid driver's license from the state of Louisiana. Also, that we do a light background check and motor vehicle check. We want to make sure everybody's safe, and and primarily that's it. And they'll need to make sure that they have availability. One of the really cool things about this program, and for our volunteers, is it's completely up to them as far as how much and how often they want to volunteer. There's no contracts or anything, no dedicated amount of time that we say you have to drive. It's completely up to them. So if they have as little as a few afternoons or mornings a month, that is completely a big help to us.
So you're not just like taking a volunteer and assigning them to an individual and saying, okay, what we want you to do is get this individual to all of his or her treatments. For as long as those treatments are going on, volunteers could just drive whoever needed a ride when they were available?
Basically, that's how it works. What we do is we work with the different medical facilities here, primarily radiation or chemotherapy appointments. And what we do from then is that we get all of their names, all of their information. And from a week-to-week basis, we actually look at the volunteer listings that we have, and we call each one of them individually to see what their availability is and if they are available to transport the patients. And they have the ability to say yes or no.
Okay, so how's the program working so far?
It's been working very good. Actually, we got started in late April.
Of this year?
Of this year.
2011?
So it's a brand new program for us, and we're still in the phases of a slow launch. We want to be able to provide it all throughout Acadiana, but right now we're primarily doing most of our transportation assistance here in the Lafayette area. Mm-hmm. It's been working very well. We've been able to provide over 150 trips, one-way trips so far.
Wow, since April.
Since late April. So it's very much so needed.
When you say one-way trips, do the volunteers wait for the treatment to be over and
Yes.
take the person home? So they're going to block out a certain number of hours for
Right,
this.
right. And basically, what it's like, it depends on the type of treatment that they're getting. Most radiation appointments may only last for about 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
So, a lot of times they can sit in the waiting room or read a book or sit in their cars and wait a book and wait for that patient to be finished and then can transport them back home. Now, for chemotherapy, since it's between 3 to 4 hours, what we usually do is that they have the choice of whether or not, hey, they want to drop the patient off. They can wait for them if they choose to, but also, since it's that long of a period of time, they can go out and do what they need to do for the day as long as they're back in enough time to pick the patient back up.
Okay.
Or we could set it up to where one patient would drop off, one volunteer would drop off the patient to the actual treatment, and we would have another volunteer to pick them back up and bring them home again. So we really do try to work with everybody's schedules.
Okay. So I'm thinking that's really important in terms of getting volunteers. But I'm also thinking that it's probably a great way for relationships to develop.
Exactly. It's very much so a relationship builder. One of the things that we always push is that a lot of times you'll see people in the grocery store, you'll see them in the waiting room, and in different walks of life, and sometimes it may not be that easy to get that conversation going. So while they're there in the car, they have that one-on-one time together where they can really get to know each other. And we found that a lot of relationships have been built from that. We get a lot of people saying, hey, is Miss So-and-so going to be going again next week? I want to drive her. So,
Yeah.
Or vice versa. So it works really well with relationships.
Yeah, I'm thinking that after a while, certain volunteers will take on the responsibility of taking certain patients because they care about each other.
Yes, yes.
And that's what we want.
Yeah, and a lot of times, these patients may have treatment for 6 weeks or so. So they're there for quite a while, and, depending on how everything works with the transportation sites. But so sometimes they have a whole lot of times to build that relationships together.
So we have just Lafayette right now with this program going?
Yes, Lafayette is the only one that's full-fledged. We are in the midst of working with the Vermilion area in Iberia. Our biggest need there, though, is the volunteers. Volunteers completely make up the face of our organization. So with these volunteers, we need them to be able to commit to bringing the patients to and from treatment. So we've really been kind of stumping the pavements in those areas, trying to see how we can get more people into the program.
Okay, and I'm thinking a lot of these appointments are during the day, right?
Yes.
So people that are working may not be available. They may want to do it, but they don't have the time.
Yeah. Well, what we actually do is we have several different scenarios that we're working with currently. We have some people that say, hey, I have an hour lunch break, an hour and 30-minute lunch break. I want to do it. So they plan all of their trips during their lunch break.
Okay.
I mean, being that radiation could primarily only be 15 to 30 minutes, they can then gauge and see where those appointments in those patients' homes are and kind of tweak that around where their actual workplaces are. So that's been working out very well. Also, a lot of times they get vacations and they want to use a couple days of their vacation to go and do it. So we're ready to work with them any way possible.
So even if they can only do it a couple days a year, even
That's
good enough.
That's still good. That's still good. One of the big things about this program is going to take a massive amount of volunteers to actually keep it up and running.
Yeah.
And we've been doing
Yeah.
really good so far with the volunteers that we've had, but eventually we would like to spread this program all throughout Acadiana. So we're going to need a massive number of people behind us to make sure that if somebody's on vacation or somebody has a family emergency, we still have other volunteers to fill in that gap.
Because what are people doing now without the transportation? They're just not going?
That's it. A lot of times they're just not going. So when that happens, they may either add more time on their treatment. So of course, they could have some adverse reactions or effects.
Yeah,
So,
that's not something that you want to play around with.
no. And you know what? Acadiana is really good with the different resources that we have all throughout the community, all the different organizations working together to be able to provide, different types of transportation assistance. But for those that fall in the gap who just may be too ill, this program is right on time for them.
So how did we get it? Because like we said earlier today, the American Cancer Society decides where programs go. So you and your office didn't sit down one day and say, hey, I think we need to start a Road to Recovery program here in Acadiana. You didn't do that, did you?
No, we didn't. What we actually do is we're under the direction of our division. And what we do from that is that they kind of take a gauge and scope and say, what programs are working in other areas? What can we do in the Acadiana area that will make the resources better? What did the cancer patients in Acadiana need? And, after looking at all of that, that's how they go about saying, well, you know what? This new program, Road to Recovery, has been working great over there in Baton Rouge or New Orleans. Maybe it's time for us to bring it here to Lafayette and see how it goes there. So basically, that's how it works.
So the division is what?
The division is comprised of those 6 states that we discussed.
It's a national geographic area.
Yes.
And how many roads to recovery programs do we have in Louisiana?
We actually have 4 right now. Yeah, we're the last one to get started, so we're very excited about it. We're the babies to the program.
Just for a little while. I'm sure somebody else is going to come after us.
Just for a little while. But actually right now we have it full-blown in the New Orleans area, Shreveport, Baton Rouge, and now Lafayette.
Okay. So do you get, or do we get, financial assistance or anything like that through the division, or do they bring a program and they say, okay, now we want you to implement this and we want you to find a way to support it and to fund it?
Well, a lot of the work that we do is based off of the fundraising. So, we have our events, signature events like Relay for Life and all of those other things, and, donations and all that. And that helps us really be able to manage and run our programs and services that we offer here locally. But we do have other ways to help. We have what we call the Cancer Resource Network, which is basically all of the resources into one category, one nutshell, in a way that we can find ways to help all of the patients here in the area.
You lost me.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So basically what the Cancer Resource Network is our website, our 1-800 number, any patient service program that we have, like, for example, Road to Recovery or support group. It's all of those things kind of combined into one factor, of which we can help those patients. So that's what we really go off of, is that program and those services that are available to those patients. And a lot of those do go, maybe from funding, but some of them are just primarily just support programs that people can have one-on-one mentoring or a group mentoringship. So it just depends.
So what you're really saying, Shamika, if I'm kind of taking this in the right direction, is that a lot of the programs that you do are really, they happen because volunteers, people in the community, step up and make them happen.
Exactly. Okay. Volunteers are definitely the face of our organization.
Not just the Road to Recovery, but across the board.
Across the board.
So if somebody wants to volunteer for a different program, is the process the same?
Well, basically, if anybody was interested, the best way to get in contact with us is to call our 1-800 number, which is 1-800-201-2345. From there, we can actually have them speak with a specialized other person on the line, and they actually can give them more details. A real person. There's never going to be any operators or anything like that. It's always going to be a live body on that other end of the phone, and they're actually going to match them up with our direct office and kind of go with them and sit with them and say, okay, look, these are some of the different things that you may be available to help with, and from there they'll send that to us, and we will follow up with them, and have a meeting with them and see what they're interested in. One of the things that we really like to do is not pigeonhole somebody, pretty much let them choose what they want to do. We listen to them first, and we tell them about what other possibilities we have in our organization with volunteering.
Okay, so your attitude about volunteers then is they get to pick?
Yeah, they get to pick.
And they really, really do. You're totally right.
They do.
What are some of the volunteer opportunities aside from driving? But before we get into other opportunities, I've been meaning to ask this the whole show. But when somebody is driving, if the client or the patient has some problems, say on the way home, they're feeling bad or whatever, do you train the volunteers on how to help and support?
Oh yeah, the training that we have is about 2 hours, and it is very, very, very detailed of a training. We go through every scenario that could possibly occur. And one of those scenarios is, what happens if somebody were to get sick? Mm-hmm. And so we have not only information that we talk to them and give them so that they'll have that on site, but we also have what we call little cleanup bags. So if somebody were to get ill or something, they have everything that they need. And we also talk about, how to contact family members if they need to find somebody else to help them to get somewhere, if they no longer feel comfortable, or also to call up emergency lines if we need that.
Okay, so Shamika, when somebody is volunteering, and maybe they have some anxiety about the client or the patient maybe getting sick or whatever, you're able to give them the support, the training that they need?
Definitely. We really try to make sure that we have very thorough descriptions of what the expectations are going to be, not only for the program, but what to expect for problematic situations that can occur.
And that's what happens in the training, in the 2-hour training that you
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Okay. What about like with the support programs and other things? Are people trained to do those as well?
Everything that we offer that involves volunteer, they do all have to be trained for everything. Not only trained, but whenever they're working with patients, we make sure that they are also trained on confidentiality and making sure that those guidelines have been met and that the patients can feel comfortable with knowing that anything that they learn about them will completely stay 100% confidential.
Which is absolutely key if
Yes.
you're going to be able to work
yeah.
in the medical field. How did you get involved with the American Cancer Society?
I actually started off as a volunteer and an
Speaking
intern.
of all of that.
Yeah, I actually started off as a volunteer, and one of the things that I learned when working with the organization is that I just really admired the personal touch that all of the employees had with the actual patients and the wealth of knowledge that the actual organization had to offer. So I did, continue my journey with volunteering after graduation, and I was also an intern with the American Cancer Society. Went on to apply for jobs there and luckily landed this one.
And all these years later, here you are.
Yes,
kind of helping with the health information piece of it all.
Yes.
So, and that is one thing. I mean, that's what I've always thought of with the American Cancer Society. It's just information, gobs and gobs and gobs of
Yes.
information. I mean, I think anything that you could think of, we can call you guys and you can send us pamphlets and tell us the what's what. Is that's true,
correct.
huh?
Yes.
And in terms of just again back into funding and that kind of stuff, the national organization, there's a lot of research going on.
Oh, yeah.
At the national level, right?
Yes, we do a lot of fundraising and things like that to come back into our programs and services here locally, but one of the main initiatives that we have is for research. Our organization prides on the fact that we want to one day hopefully find a cure for cancer. And so we know in order to be able to do that, we have to move forward with our research.
Okay.
And just as an example of some of the breakthroughs that we've been able to make in the research world, the mammogram was created by one of our researchers, prostate screening analysis, different factors of the colonoscopy, also the HPV vaccine, Gardasil, that's coming out. So we have several different ways that we've been able to help, and we're very proud to say that we had some mark in pretty much all of the major cancer breakthroughs that have occurred throughout
And
the
that's
years.
through the research.
That's through the
that you've
research.
done.
Yes.
And what about the advocacy? Is yours an advocacy organization as well?
Yes, we actually do a lot, through our entire organization. We call it Fighting Back.
I like that.
Yes, and our way to fight back is basically to listen to our cancer patients. What are their needs? What are some of the things that they're seeing throughout the community that they think that we should be actively lobbying for? So every year we go to the Capitol with a different issue, of which we want to try to make sure that those professionals are hearing us, that we can make sure that we are speaking for the cancer patients here in the area, no matter what that is.
So what have been some of the issues, say, in the past year or two that have come up?
Well, actually, we had a big part to do with the whole campaign for trying to increase tobacco tax.
All right.
Of course,
All
that was
right.
something I know that was highly talked about. And we're also proud that, we've been able to, hopefully this year, vote for having our tobacco tax stay the same as what it was and not to decrease. So that's just a couple small things that we've been able
Well,
to
that's
do.
actually not a small thing. That's
Yeah.
actually been a very big thing.
It's been a pretty big issue, and in past years, we were one of the many organizations that were involved with, all of our restaurants and main businesses going smoke-free.
So what that really says to me, in addition to the fact that you are active in terms of getting laws changed and getting some legislation
Yes.
out there, but you're also great collaborators. Because,
Yes.
one agency, one organization can't really make these kinds of
No.
systemic changes that we're talking about when we talk about smoke-free.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a large wealth of all of these organizations coming together in common agreement with something on those issues that we know are going to benefit not only our cancer patients, but the community as a whole.
Exactly, exactly. So you can be very proud of the work that you
Yes,
do.
yes, very much so.
And I'm seeing the ad running now, the birthday ad. Is that,
Yes,
you
yes.
know,
We call ourselves the official sponsor of birthdays. And the meaning behind that is that for every year a cancer patient is a survivor, and for every year they continue to live life, that's another birthday that they have. So that's why we've been calling ourselves the official sponsor of birthdays.
so are we finding that people are living longer with cancer?
Oh, yeah. I mean, with the major advancements that they've had in the cancer years, I mean, the cancer world from years ago, of course, with the different medications that are out there and all the different factors that come into play, we have been finding that people are living longer and they're living happier and healthier lives.
So it's not just a longevity issue, it's a quality of life issue.
It's mainly a quality of life issue.
And again, I think that the support
Mm-hmm.
that people are able to get, the knowledge that they're able to get from your organization and others, really does add to the quality of life.
Yes.
Now, in the last couple of minutes, I want to talk about the road to recovery again, because I want to end today's show with people having that on their mind in case they have a little bit of extra time. But really, anywhere throughout Acadiana, eventually we're going to have this program.
Yes.
But if they're living like in Acadia Parish right now, it's not yet available, but it will be. Am I right about
Yes,
that?
the program is not yet available. Well, we're definitely taking in all the volunteers. So, the programs can only start in those areas once we have active volunteer bases. So, we make a massive call to anybody out there who's listening and who says, look, I do have a free afternoon a month. I can help out. Please call us. Please contact us. We can talk about it further, get you trained, and get those patients on the road to recovery.
And we can, you know what, you can recruit your friends.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if somebody in a parish that's not on your target list can absolutely step up and organize their community.
For sure.
And then we can have drivers, and that's really all that's lacking are drivers.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's definitely something that's needed in every community. That's why we're making such a massive push to get the volunteers that we need to be able to fulfill those needs throughout the different areas.
And I just want to make this point. When you talk about driving, we're talking just about driving within the community. You're not talking about taking somebody to MD Anderson or any of those out of town trips.
This will be primarily throughout your parish. So we'll try to have it set up to where people in Lafayette Parish will only cover Lafayette Parish.
Okay.
But they do have the ability to say how far and what the distances that they want to drive. So some of them are say maybe 60 miles or so, but we know we'll try to keep it as close to home as possible.
Okay, well, that's all we need to know. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Shimeka.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for watching The Extra Mile.